Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Garrett Smith, the nutrition detective around these here YouTube parts. And I am here with another live stream. Today we have, I'm saving the testimonials for the future. What we're going to do today, we're going to be going over endometriosis and PCOS and how they relate to toxicities, deficiencies. Hello, Will. Toxicities, deficiencies, and toxic bile theory. So excess bile in your blood and the wrong types of bile in your blood and how the gut biome relates to all that and everything else. So we're just going to get started. Remember, you can always do super chats if you have priority questions, but I don't know how many questions I'm going to have time to get to today because this is going to be a lot of info. So here we go. Let me go share my screen. We're still figuring out this software a little bit, so bear with us. So let's go. Wait, what? Come on. There we go, screen 2. There we go. Okay, here we are. Oops, wrong one. Let's go back to here. So remember, for those of you who are still coming in, yeah, Pierre, I can't do early announcements of the live stream until I go live. That's just the way it works with this software. So we're trying to figure that out. I don't know how to make it work yet. So first, for those of you who don't know what we're doing here, and you've come here because you're interested in endometriosis and PCOS and what might be the actual root causes of it, one of the things we talk about here is toxic bile theory. What we are doing, why you have chronic health problems, is because your liver and your body fat are full of toxic stuff, common things that you may not think are toxic, or you may have been told that they're good for you, like copper is not helpful in your situation. We'll go over that. And then you are leaking bile. The toxic bile is the most toxic substance in your body, made by your liver, if it's your liver's waste product, and it is leaking various ways into your bloodstream. You are toxifying yourself via your own bile. And if we can fix this, if we can make your bile less toxic and have you leak less, your symptoms go away. Emily just said over here in the chat that in 2 months of doing the love your liver stuff, the detox stuff we do, the correcting deficiencies that we do, it's already helped her menstrual cycle. So we're going to go over this and how it relates. So let's go back to the share first. So we're going to show the toxic bile theory connection first, okay? Title of this study, Increased, and you can get all of these. Let me make it a little bigger. You can get the links from the pages if you want. I'll put the link in the chat. Let's go here. There we go. Increased circulating conjugated primary bile acids are associated with hyperandrogenism in women with polycystic ovary syndrome. So we're going to go over the toxic bile connection first, because the toxic bile is what's going back into your blood that contains all sorts of toxic things. It's the carrier, okay? The bile itself is toxic, but it contains a bunch of toxic things. So what they're saying here, you're not really supposed to have in a this is a complicated thing. I'm going to say this real closely because I used to say it differently. You are supposed to have almost no bile acids in your blood, almost zero. Technically, some of your cells in your body can make bile acids, and we've covered that in other live streams. Nobody else on the internet is probably going to talk about that. But once I learned that, I said, I can't say that there should be zero bile acids in your blood anymore because some of your cells make it. But you are not supposed to be leaking any bile acids from your liver into your blood. Okay? What they're saying here is there's more bile, that title, just the summary of the title. There's more of what are called primary bile acids, which are a little less damaging than secondary bile acids in the blood, and it's associated with more of the testosterone and other androgenizing hormones, the things that cause the masculinizing effects in PCOS. Okay. I don't think I found anything. What else do we find here? So they were looking at serum bile acids compared with control subjects. Glycine and taurine conjugated primary bile acids were significantly elevated in patients with PCOS. In addition, these conjugated primary bile acids were significantly and positively, that means the more of those bile acids in the blood, the more of this next symptom they're going to tell you about, positively associated with serum concentrations of total testosterone and androstenedione in the PCOS group. In conclusion, increased circulating conjugated primary bile acids in the blood, more of them, are associated with more androgens in the blood of PCOS. Okay, so one of the things that I believe happens with people who get toxic, this is going to seem weird, but when people become more toxic, the different sexes. Okay, I don't play with the whole gender thing here. The different sexes become more like the opposite sex. Are we noticing the trend of this in society as people are becoming more toxic? Men are becoming more like women and women are becoming more like men. It's not, it's nature and nurture. Okay, there's the weird things that society's putting out into our brains, but there's also the nature of it, which is the toxicity. And when you think about it, if there was some grand scheme to damage society, and they were able to both chemically change people and they were to put bad ideas in, do you see how that would work even better? Do you notice this out there? Hold on one sec. Okay, so more bile acids. Now, this is the other thing I just want to touch on here. Glycine and taurine. Some people think glycine is the most amazing thing ever. And some people think taurine is the most amazing thing ever. I'm going to give you a quick little overview of, let's say you're one of the people out there who tried glycine. You felt amazing. Let's say you know somebody else, you told a friend to take it, and they said, I couldn't sleep on glycine, or I felt terrible. Same thing with taurine. Maybe somebody tried it, they felt amazing, and they tell their friend, and their friend tries it, and they're like, that's the worst thing I've ever taken. So you see in this PCOS thing, there was more glycine and taurine conjugated, bound to primary bile acids in PCOS. What this means in terms of toxic bile theory, let me back up 1 second. If you want to watch the video where I've done the most basic foundational discussion of toxic bile theory, it's the live stream number 71 on this channel. Okay. The Love Your Liver live stream number 71. I'm going to fix the title, make it a little more toxic bile theory oriented, but that's the one you can go to get the basics of what we're talking about. Okay. So what I'm getting at is that glycine or taurine could help you feel better. It could help you feel better, but it could make you feel worse. And the reason it does this is because one of the things that affects how your disease presentation is the recipe of your bile. You can change the recipe of your bile with glycine or taurine. You could make things better. You could make things worse. You have to go by how you feel on glycine or taurine. So people ask me about, what do I think about glycine? What do I think about taurine? I say, you can try them and you'll know. If you don't feel anything, don't take it. Don't add more stuff to the system. If you're not, like with glycine or taurine, the try it and see things, I call it. If you add them and you feel better, great, keep it. If you add it and you feel worse, ditch it. You can give it to a friend. They might feel better. It doesn't mean that just because you feel better or worse on glycine doesn't mean somebody else is going to necessarily feel that way. This is the very important thing about, just like what we're talking about, different disease states have different bile recipes. And you can tweak the bile recipe. Now, let me give you one hint for those of you out there who are doing this on your own, and maybe you haven't gone to the Love Your Liver program to learn this stuff yet. The try it and see things, of which glycine and taurine fall into that category, if they help you in the beginning, just realize that over time, they're going to probably turn on you and maybe make you feel even worse. So they may make you feel amazing in the beginning, but what I'm setting you up for is if they do help you feel amazing in the beginning, at some point it's going to turn on you, because what's it going to do? It's going to shift the bile recipe over time. If you're doing things to get better, like we do in the Love Your Liver program, if you are doing things underneath it all to get better, Eventually, you won't need the band-aids, the crutches like taurine and glycine are. And eventually, they'll overcompensate your bile recipe and you'll feel worse. So just be aware of that. If you're using glycine or taurine, and let's say you're still using it and you're going, but I'm feeling worse these days than I used to. I don't know why the glycine isn't working anymore. I don't know why the taurine's not working anymore. They turned on you. Are you going to find this in the literature? No, you're not going to find this in the literature or the research anywhere. This is why I watch people, and I'm very good at pattern recognition, and I see these patterns happen, and then I tell people, watch for this pattern, and then it does. This is not going to be in the research. This is real trenches. This is in the trenches kind of stuff. Okay, so let's move on now. So one of the things, so we have here, gut microbiota bile acid interleukin 22 axis orchestrates polycystic ovary syndrome, okay? Orchestrates it. Let me tell you something about you know how they were talking about conjugated primary bile acids before? Well, one of the things your gut microbiome does, so you got to understand two things at the very start here. Your bile and what it's made of, it's supposed to go down into your gut. That's where it's supposed to go. Oh, let me zoom the font. There we go. This was kind of small. Your gut microbiome is it changes your bile. Okay. It turns primary bile acids. It can, if you have a bad microbiome, it'll turn primary bile acids, which are not as bad, into secondary bile acids, which are worse. Okay. But then also the gut microbiome changes the bile, and the bile changes the gut microbiome. I've shown papers on this before. So you can affect it. You could improve your gut biome. No, it's not the same. It's not the same. Pierre, you can improve your biome, or you can improve make the toxicity of your bile less. You can do it both ways. Do we do it both? We do both. Okay. So let me just go over the basics of this. This is kind of what we do in the Love Your Liver program. It's almost exactly what we do. Here we go. I'm just going to read the last line. You can go and look at all the rest of it. What do we see here? Here we report that Bacteroides vulgaris was markedly elevated in the gut microbiota of individuals with PCOS. So there's a certain gut, a probiotic, a bacteria, if you want to call it that. Because people tend to think of probiotics as being only good things. Okay, you can just think of it as the gut bacteria. So PCOS people had more of this Bacteroides vulgaris, accompanied by reduced glycodeoxycholic acid and taurodeoxycholic acid levels. Okay, so they're saying these are different ones than I mentioned before, but they're saying they have lower levels of these. This is the bile recipe. This is how things change. And I would say, I believe those are both secondary bile acids. Now they're saying they have less of these conjugated ones. But what about the others? There were up to, the last I saw in the research, there was 55 different bile acids that they could look at, and they tend to only look at maybe 6 to 10. So if somebody told you there's 55 ingredients in this recipe and you said, well, here, tell me 6 to 10 of them. Do you think you're going to do well with that recipe? Do you think you're going to make it correctly? No, you don't know anything about that recipe. Okay? So this is an important thing. When we change the gut microbiome, transplantation of fecal microbiota from women with PCOS or Bacteroides vulgaris colonized recipient mice resulted in increased disruption of ovarian functions, insulin resistance, altered bile acid metabolism, reduced interleukin 22 secretion, and infertility. Okay. People think that these fecal transplants are just like going to fix everything. Do you see what they just said? They said if they took the gut microbiome, they took poop basically from PCOS women or mice, and they gave them to, I believe they gave them to mice, other mice, control mice that didn't have the problems, and they gave them basically PCOS symptoms. You better be real careful if you're going to do a fecal transplant. Everybody else, I didn't really actually know this. I was thinking about, at the time I was hearing all these wonderful things about it. And over the years, I always say this, never, it's a famous saying, but I say never be the first to volunteer, but don't be the last. But to never be the first to volunteer, there's a lot of horror stories out on the internet of fecal transplants. It's not just all like unicorns and rainbows. They just told you that you could totally change somebody's situation by giving them the wrong gut bacteria. Okay. And they'll always, all these companies or whatever that do it, they'll say, oh yeah, we found you a healthy donor. Who do you know who's truly healthy out there these days? Who do you know? So, as this is what we're talking about, what we fix here. This study suggests that modifying the gut microbiome, we have a whole section in the Love Your Liver program about shifting the gut biome, altering bile acid metabolism. Actually, we talk very specifically about one probiotic that has been shown to it has very high amounts of what's called bile acid hydrolase, or bile salt hydrolase, BSH, and it changes the gut. The bile recipe, it changes the bile recipe by unconjugating things, taking things off of the bile acids, and or increasing interleukin 22 levels may be of value for the treatment of PCOS. Well, we're doing those first two things. That's what we do in the program. Now, this is going to lose my highlighted part every time on this. So now we have diagnostic value of bile acids. Whoa, they're diagnostic value. What about treatment value? And fibroblast growth factor 21 in women with PCOS. So what we're going to do, and then we go here. And then we go. Oh, Joe gave me all the keyboard shortcuts, and I just did it, and it worked. Great job. Thanks, Joe. Okay. So what do we have here in PCOS? We have taurocolic acid, TCA, and taurodeoxycholic acid were elevated in PCOS subjects with obesity in comparison to controls without PCOS. So they just, I believe that last study just said taurodeoxycholic acid was, let me see, where was it? They were just saying, I think it was decreased. Okay. Different recipes can show up and people can have slightly different presentations. Just because modern medicine has put a name to the recipe, it doesn't mean that it's all going to be exactly the same. Okay. This is why there's these try and see things. This is where people really want me to say, like, is taurine good for this or not? And I'm like, try it. See how it does for you. It may be great. You may feel terrible. If you feel terrible, stop it immediately. Okay. Don't believe anybody on the internet who just says that you need a ton of this to fix it. It doesn't work that way. Okay. There's definite patterns. Like, are most people zinc deficient? Yeah. But does that mean everybody needs tons of zinc? No, it doesn't mean that everybody needs tons of zinc. Different cars need different amounts of gasoline. They use different types of gasoline. They all run on gasoline, but they don't need the same as other cars. Okay. So, continuing. Here we go. Profile of bile acid metabolomics. Now, if you're out there searching for bile stuff, you can use this word on PubMed, metabolomics. That'll give you, that's one way to get to the bile. I mean, you can always search for, like, I was searching for polycystic ovarian bile PubMed. If you use other search engines to search PubMed, sometimes it's better than PubMed's search engine itself. Okay. But metabolomics will get you bile related studies as well. So where were we? Here we go. Let's see. Glycolic acid, taurocolic acid, glycokinodeoxycholic acid, and kinodeoxycholic acid were elevated in the PCOS group. More bile acids in the blood. It's not supposed to be there. So what I'm saying is PCOS is related to excess bile in the blood. Now I'm going to give you another concept here. When the body is making extra tissue, what are we talking about today? We're talking about polycystic. The body's growing multiple cysts. And endometriosis. What is the definition of endometriosis? It's endometrial tissue outside of the uterus. It could be anywhere in the body. Do you know that endometriosis has shown up in gallbladders, of all places? When the body is growing extra tissue, the body is doing the best it can to protect you from the toxicity that cannot get rid of fast enough by making new storage areas. Make sure you register that. The body makes cancer, whether we're talking about cancer, we're talking about tumors, we're talking about cysts, we're talking about whatever. The body is making extra storage areas for toxins that it cannot get rid of fast enough. And once you understand that concept, then all the other stuff just becomes like silly. All these, they're like, they want to tell you that you're broken somehow. Like when you see the retinoid signaling stuff later, it's just a joke. Like when they talk about your body's not converting the vitamin A into the magical forms fast enough, and so you're not getting enough of this form of vitamin A. It's just a joke. And when you see the amount of copper in endometrial tissues, in another study I'm going to go over later, the amount of copper in endometrial tissues from women who they had hormonal birth control, but yet the amount of copper in their endometrial tissue is like 4 times higher or something like that, if I recall correctly. It's just bonkers. And they're not usually measuring the bile in those tissues either. So anyway, more bile in the PCOS group in this paper. Okay, so we've got the toxic bile theory, like PCOS. You have bile running everywhere through your system. And that bile contains toxic things, which we're going to get into now. Oh, this one, I already went over that one. Yeah, that was just another. There we go. Okay. Let's get into copper first, because ladies, first of all, if you ever used the birth control pill, or you used IUDs, you used any form of contraception, let me give you the rundown on it. Tons of research shows that you get vitamin A toxicity from it. Like, you are not processing vitamin A well, and you are going to get toxic from it, which we'll go into this in a bit. And you are getting copper toxicity from it. This is not just the copper IUD. Okay. I believe I saw in the stats for, I think PCOS was now 5% of the female population, something like that. And endometriosis is 10 to 15% of the population. I don't remember if that was just US or not, or just like Western country. I think it was just US. But think about that. Between those two things, I mean, there may be some overlap, but that's 20% of women. The biggest thing I see in my practice, in terms of really what starts women down their negative spiral of health, is birth control. Stay off of birth control. Help your daughters stay off of birth control. I don't care what other topics that brings up for you, whatever other issues you have with it. If you want to poison your daughter or poison yourself for the rest of your life, go ahead and do birth control. If you want to be healthy, don't take it. Okay. We have a copper lover in the comments. This is cute. You're going to want to go to another channel if you think copper's good for you. Go somewhere else. This is not your place. We fix people broken by copper here. So, serum copper level in polycystic ovarian syndrome, a meta-analysis, multiple studies. Conclusion. This is all we really need. Our research generally indicated circulating copper level in PCOS sufferers was significantly higher than normal controls. Wow. Well, that's interesting. We'll have plenty more where that came from. there's that one. Okay. Let's go to the next one. The relationship between copper, homocysteine, and early vascular disease in lean women with polycystic ovarian syndrome. PCOS is very, you remember how they talked earlier about a different bile profile being associated with obesity and hyperandrogenism? So too many male hormones. They're talking about lean polycystic ovarian syndrome. It's not always one presentation. Okay, this is why we talk about over and under types in the Love Your Liver program. Poor liver health, which is, again, behind all of the chronic disease that's out there, can manifest in underweight people or overweight people. Okay? But here we go. Oh, and if you haven't seen it on this channel, I have the other video where I go over how vitamin A toxicity raises homocysteine and depletes B12 and folate. So here we go. The CIMT, we're not going to worry about that. That's the carotid intima media thickness, but that's not a good thing either to have high. The CIMT and concentration of copper in PCOS patients was significantly higher than the healthy controls. Significantly higher than the healthy controls. Okay. Interesting. Thus, increased copper levels may be responsible for the increased risk of early vascular disease, heart disease in women with PCOS. Surfing USA said green tea to chelate the iron and copper. No, don't do. Green tea is not going to help with anything. Polyphenols are toxic. Phenol, poly, multiple. No, we don't go after that. And it's probably full of fluoride too. So no, we don't run to green tea for anything. Okay, let's just hammer on the copper thing more. Status of serum copper, magnesium, and total antioxidant capacity in patients with polycystic ovarian syndrome. It's just so easy to find copper toxicity studies. Let's see. This one has an interesting thing. I didn't read much about the magnesium thing because this is just lunacy. So let's see. Serum copper level was significantly higher while total antioxidant content was significantly lower in the PCOS patients than those in the controls. Did I already post this one? Did I? Yeah, okay. So, yeah, basically, you can read it about the magnesium thing. I don't trust this thing about the magnesium at all. Let's see. So you know how they mentioned that they just said total antioxidant content was lower in the PCOS. Okay, so let's go into what do we use to counter copper toxicity? Zinc status and polycystic ovarian syndrome, a systematic review and meta-analysis. Sorry, I have these in a little different order, but we're still on PCOS. We haven't gotten to endometriosis yet. Okay. Our study indicated that circulating zinc levels in women with PCOS were significantly lower than those in healthy controls when detailed analysis is conducted. Now, it's funny, there are people out there that talk about they're trying to treat the root cause of things. And they'll say that zinc supplements are horrible and bioavailable copper is amazing. And the only studies you can find on bioavailable copper on PubMed, the one that uses the term bioavailable copper, is it's actually talking about copper toxicity because bioavailable just simply means it can get into your system. Okay. Bioavailable copper is a nonsense, garbage theory. Ceruloplasmin is made by your liver to protect you against copper toxicity. It's to protect you against free copper because free copper is so toxic. Binding up copper into ceruloplasmin makes it less toxic. It doesn't mean it's gone. It doesn't mean anything. It's just, it's better for you. It's like ferritin binding to iron. Ferritin binds to iron to protect you. You're not supposed to have ferritin in your blood, really, at all. It means you're leaking bile into your blood. Ceruloplasmin also means you are leaking bile into your blood. Ceruloplasmin is made to go into the bile, bound to copper, so you can poop it out and not hurt yourself in the process so much. That's what these proteins are designed to do. It's not ceruloplasmin escorting copper to where it's needed. It's not retinol binding protein escorting vitamin A to where it's needed. These are protective proteins. The less of the protective protein you have, the more damage you have. It doesn't mean that ceruloplasmin is making it bioavailable. That is nonsense. These are nonsense theories made to convince you that these toxins are good for you. I don't know, maybe because they're trying to reduce the population and copper leads to infertility. Note the IUD. And vitamin A leads to infertility. Note Bill Gates' favorite vitamin is vitamin A. And he's a big fan of less people. There's a reason they sell you these BS concepts. So, there's zinc. Don't be afraid of zinc, but don't go doing stupid amounts. What we do here, what I recommend is testing. We test both hair and blood for zinc and copper. We don't fool around with zinc and copper. If you're seeing somebody who's trying to tell you things about zinc and copper on only a hair test, they're lost. When you see the blood, when you can see the blood and the hair at the same time, you start going, when you see them go opposite directions and you go, wait, what's going on? Maybe my hair test person always told me I was low in copper and I needed to take more. No. Or you may have thought you were okay on zinc and then you get your blood test back and your zinc is super low. The hair test on zinc and copper without the bloods to counter it, you're lost. So let's go into another one. This is the one I believe that, yes. So let me get the name of it for you. I'll try to find my spot again. The role of zinc in selected female reproductive system disorders. Because there's a lot of different ways that the female reproductive system can be poisoned. Come on, give me my find. There we go. Now, there's all sorts of, come down to this section, zinc and polycystic ovarian syndrome. You can find all sorts of stuff in here. I'm just going to hit a couple of important parts. Bizone et al. Conducted a study comparing PCOS women according to BMI value, less than 25 versus over 25. That's overweight versus normal weight. Or if you go far enough, it's underweight. But they did not include control groups in their study. Although serum zinc concentration was unchanged, increased serum copper concentration again, and copper to zinc ratio in overweight obese women was noted. If you're overweight or obese and you have real trouble losing weight, and you have female disorders, or men, if you have problems down there, you're probably copper toxic. You're probably quite copper toxic. I've shown that obese people have higher copper in their blood and higher serum retinol and more retinol binding protein in their blood. The same two vitamin A and copper toxicity that we treat in just about every condition. Okay, let's keep going. Let me see. Where was the one I wanted? Come on. I thought I had... Here it was. We're going to talk about Malondialdehyde in a second. The redox imbalance, that's the reduction, the oxidative versus, why am I brain farting right now? Anyway, antioxidants versus oxidative, it's that kind of thing. The redox imbalance in PCOS is manifested by an impaired antioxidant mechanism. Your liver is your biggest antioxidative mechanism. You shouldn't be trying to shove antioxidants from plant foods down your throat. Stop it. Fix your liver, and your liver will do it for you. Decrease of CAT and glutathione peroxidase activity, and increase of oxidative stress biomarkers, i.e., as in malondialdehyde. We're going to talk about that. Malondialdehyde concentration goes up. In women with PCOS, decreased lipid peroxidation indicated by lower MDA concentration. Oh, this was observed following zinc supplementation. Oh, wait, you're saying we already saw that PCOS women were lower in zinc and they were higher in malondialdehyde. And then they talked about lowered antioxidant capacity in another one, and they gave them zinc. And they had less malondialdehyde, and which basically translates into a better antioxidant state. Okay. Stop with the plant antioxidants. You're poisoning yourself with polyphenols. High dose vitamin C doesn't help your liver either. Even if it helps your symptoms, the whole pharmaceutical industry is based on reducing symptoms with things that are not good for your liver. So don't just think that because a supplement reduces your symptoms in mega doses that it's good for you. Mega-dosed supplements are drug-like effects. Don't ever fool yourself. Okay, so now we get into the aldehydes. So we just talked about zinc helping lower malondialdehyde levels. For those of you who don't know, malondialdehyde is when people talk about PUFAs, polyunsaturated fatty acids, being bad for you. What PUFAs turn into in your body is malondialdehyde. Why do the PUFA people almost never talk about this? The PUFA people almost never talk about malondialdehyde. Okay, aldehyde dehydrogenase serves as a biomarker for worse survival profiles in ovarian cancer patients. An updated meta-analysis. Let me get into this. Copy and paste here. There we go. Aldehyde dehydrogenase. Let me back up for a second for those of you. Okay, here's how you know vitamin A is a poison, folks. So when you drink alcohol, that's ethanol, right? Ethanol is turned into acetaldehyde in your body. And then ALDH turns it into acetic acid, which is the same ingredient as vinegar. Vinegar is just very, very diluted acetic acid, okay? So acetaldehyde is what will kill you from alcohol. Like that's the hangover is acetaldehyde. Alcohol poisoning is acetaldehyde. It's not actually ethanol, but anyway, ethanol turns into acetaldehyde. So that's one detox pathway, right? Methanol turns into formaldehyde. And we know that that's wood alcohol. That's the stuff that'll make you go blind, right? And then people go, but vitamin A is a vitamin. Here. Retinol is an alcohol, and it turns into retinaldehyde. Are we seriously going to say ethanol to acetaldehyde is bad? Methanol to formaldehyde is bad? Going through the same detox pathways, retinol to retinaldehyde is good and necessary, and we really need it. Really? I'm not. There's a saying called birds of a feather flock together. Alcohols are not vital amines, vitamins. Aldehydes are not vital amines. Alcohols and aldehydes are generally, the chemical class is regarded as toxic. And yet all of a sudden we're going to say these certain alcohols and aldehydes in foods are okay and good and completely necessary for life. Yeah, no. So what happens? Let me tell you that the bile system and ALDH, aldehyde dehydrogenase, that's what breaks down the aldehydes. The bile system and the ALDH are completely connected. As ALDH goes slower, the bile system gets messed up. Now, here's the other interesting thing. You know how I told you that when you're making extra tissue, cancers, tumors, endometriosis, it's there because it's storing toxins. This is why that tissue is, like, when we think of cancer, they're like, well, it's just a defective tissue. It's just a storage tissue. That's what it's made for. It doesn't need to be full tissue. It's like a storage. If you have a storage unit, you don't need your storage unit to have a sink and a bathroom and a washer and dryer and a kitchen. You don't need it there. It just needs to store stuff. It's just an empty storage space. So that's why these tissues are different than normal. They don't do much because they're not meant to be other than storage. So, but here's the other thing. What they're finding in cancer tissues and what they're about to tell you in, so one of the things that polycystic ovary syndrome they're worried about is it could turn into ovarian cancer. Okay? So what do they find in ovarian cancer? In conclusion, high expression of ALDH is correlated with worse survival profiles in ovarian cancer patients, indicating that ALDH might act as a potential molecular biomarker for prognosis of ovarian cancer. Why would you have more of a detox enzyme if you had cancer? What might your body be desperately trying to manufacture so that it could detox things? Oh, I don't know. Aldehyde dehydrogenase, because aldehydes are super toxic. What do I talk about here a lot? Vitamin A toxicity. So your body will desperately increase aldehyde dehydrogenase in certain tissues under certain situations. And they're just saying that they just said here that there's more of it. The more ALDH there is, the worse the prognosis. So remember, the body can be showing different patterns at different times. It's desperately, you know what modern medicine is trying to do when they see high ALDH? They want to shut it down. They're trying to treat cancer by shutting down ALDH, shutting down your detox enzymes. Okay. Because they see high ALDH in cancer tissues. Well, where would your body put its detox energy? Into the storage tissues to get rid of the garbage. Okay. Let's see if there's anything more. The molecular phenotype, that's how it expresses itself, of polycystic ovarian syndrome, theca cells, and new candidate PCOS genes defined by microarray analysis. Here we go. Let me get this link. Oh, wait. Nope, I didn't. I did it wrong. Control L. No, I'm on the wrong window. That's why. That's why. Got it. Okay. Here we go. Our analysis revealed that PCOS theca cells have a gene expression profile that is distinct from normal theca cells. Wait, you're saying that this storage tissue has a different genetic profile than normal tissue? Maybe it's because the body made it for a different purpose. Included in the cohort of genes with increased mRNA abundance in PCOS theca cells were aldehyde dehydrogenase 6 and retinol dehydrogenase 2, which play a role in all trans-retinoic acid biosynthesis and the transcription factor GATA6. Why do you think polycystic ovarian tissue would have more of one of the enzymes that detoxes both alcohols and a specific one for vitamin A? What do we fix here a lot? Vitamin A toxicity. We have people avoid alcohols and aldehydes. So then your body can use your alcohol dehydrogenase and your aldehyde dehydrogenase for better purposes, like to detox you so that you don't have to make special tissues with extra ALDH in them or retinol dehydrogenase. Ask yourself, why would polycystic ovarian tissue have more of a detox enzyme for vitamin A in it? Maybe they didn't analyze this tissue for vitamin A content ever. Okay, so here's the connection to vitamin A and aldehyde dehydrogenase in a way, right? In PCOS. Now, here's where I'm going to get into this. Oh boy, vitamin A. The vitamin A lovers love to take this and say retinoid signaling. So they love to say retinoid signaling. Retinoid signaling is the most terrible jumping around trying to avoid the subject of vitamin A toxicity that one can do. One of the biggest things they talk about so they're trying to say that because your vitamin A isn't turning from retinol to retinaldehyde to retinoic acid in the right amount, in the right order, that's what's causing your disease. And they like to say if you're not making enough retinoic acid, the active form of vitamin A, then you're retinoic acid deficient, when what I'm saying is you're retinaldehyde excess. You're bottlenecking. You're making more of an aldehyde, which is toxic to you. And it's been shown that if you have too much retinoic acid, this is exactly the same compounds as is in Accutane, Retin-A, and a chemotherapy drug called alitretinoin. That's what your body turns vitamin A into. If you have too many retinoic acids in your system, it slows down ALDH. It's a protective mechanism because retinoic acid is the most toxic form of vitamin A. So you'll slow down the enzyme that makes it, and you'll build up aldehydes. So this is just a different recipe, if you will. All the vitamin A is toxic. But if you change the recipe, you change the disease state. So let's go into this. Here we go. Oh, so they gave these cells, what they did was they looked at cells, which I'm going to tell you, cell studies, we've talked about it here before, duration paradox, when they give cells vitamin A, things look good. But then you do the same thing in people and it's a disaster. So the duration paradox, we've talked about this before. Cell studies in general, if you are looking at cell studies to get your health information, you missed the boat. Don't look at cell studies. Cell studies are how they hide toxicity because they only have one cycle of cells. How do you get to study toxicity over multiple cell lifetimes if you only get to look at one round? Cell studies, for the most part, are garbage. Hold on, did I not do the... Let me go here. Okay, I think we got it now. Yes, got it. Okay. So here we go. Differential responses to retinol and retinoids in normal and PCOS theca suggest that altered retinoic acid synthesis and action may be involved in augmented cytochrome 17. That's cytochrome P45017. Is that yeah. That's another one of your detox pathways. Gene expression and androgen production in PCOS. So what I'm saying here by this cell study, here's what if they ever say vitamin A is good in a cell study, you know it's absolutely a disaster for that. That's why you'll never see studies where they actually treat things, very few studies where they treat things with retinoic acid, because it's always a disaster. They put out these theory studies, these cell studies, to try to convince people that they say they're good, and then people on internet forums can post, look, vitamin A is good for PCOS, whatever. But then they just never seem to come out with human studies. They have more Retin-A and Accutane around than they know what to do with. They would love to find a way to sell it to you, but they just can't make the studies look good. And they know that if they put it out in the real world, it's just lawsuit city. So again, potential role of retinoids in ovarian physiology and pathogenesis of polycystic ovarian syndrome. If you see that title and you know anything about vitamin A toxicity, you should be going, oh, this is not good. This is vitamin A toxicity is absolutely related to this. One of the things that vitamin A is good at doing is in the early stages, it's good at differentiating cells. It's good at helping cells reproduce. They make more cells and they make new cells. But they also, just imagine that if you had to, your tissue is constantly making new stuff, you burn out. The cells burn out. They can't do it. They can't keep up with it. You can't spur a horse and whip a horse and keep it running at full speed forever. It dies eventually. So this is one of the things that vitamin A can do. Like caffeine can make your brain run faster for a while, but then afterwards you tend to be tired. It's the same thing. So the studies like to use cells because they get that one round of cells to do stuff faster, but it never works out in the long term because things burn out. Okay. Sorry, Joe. I get so excited to talk that I forget to post the link. This review primarily summarizes recent advancements made in investigating the action of retinoid signaling in ovarian physiology, as well as the abnormal retinoid signaling in PCOS. Abnormal retinoid signaling. If you ever see that, you know it's vitamin A toxicity. That's all you need to know. If you ever see that, it's absolutely. And what they do whenever they're about to do a study, a paper that says, oops, vitamin A was not good in this situation, they always started out with how important they think vitamin A is for you. This is how you always know required for maintaining vision, immunity, barrier function. This is like apologetics. They start out with, this is not going to be good. So we're going to make it look like we love vitamin A before we drop the hammer and make it look bad. That's what they do. I'm sitting here saying, if you haven't seen my Twitter thread on, let me find it. Yes, here we go. This is my vitamin A thread, my vitamin A toxicity epidemic thread, where I show they did a study on U.S. Dead bodies. They did autopsies, necropsies on them, and they found that a full 33% of the 27 bodies they looked at had diagnosable vitamin A toxicity in their liver. Okay? And then let's go back to this. Where was it? So they're talking about abnormal retinoid signaling, and they say, besides, abnormal retinoid signaling may be involved in the pathogenesis, the direct cause of polycystic ovarian syndrome, one of the most common ovarian endocrinopathies in reproductive aged women worldwide. And I show in that Twitter thread that it's a worldwide epidemic of vitamin A toxicity. Weird that these are connected. Weird that they have to start the paper off saying how wonderful vitamin A is before they're going to go into it later. Ladies, we fix menstrual stuff all the time. We fix infertility all the time. I get lots of people who used to think, dairy of all sorts, raw, I don't care, raw, pasteurized, whatever, it's still got tons of vitamin A and vitamin D and calcium, and it's not helping your situation. Get people who are doing the cod liver oil thing. I get people who are eating liver and kidneys and tons of egg yolks, and we fix their brokenness. We get them less toxic. And all of a sudden, their female systems work again. If vitamin A and copper and all of these things were so necessary to this process, how is this happening? Why am I not having women out on the internet saying this doesn't work? It works. Why do they use copper IUDs to make women infertile? I actually learned about how that supposedly works. Guys, it kills your sperm. The copper IUD specifically kills the sperm. Well, that sounds good. So we can poison the women at the same time we're killing the sperm. Good. Don't do it. So now one of the other new minerals we get into a lot in this program is selenium. So is there any connection between selenium and PCOS? Selenium and polycystic ovarian syndrome, current knowledge and future directions, a systemic review. Here we go. The reviewed studies confirmed inverse relationships between serum selenium levels and some androgenic hormones in PCOS. Selenium is able to attenuate, that's reduce, insulin resistance and dyslipidemia, which goes along with PCOS. Inverse relationship of PCOS and so more selenium, less of the androgenic hormones, the testosterone and the other stuff that causes the masculinizing effect. So more selenium, less of these. Now, you want to know the funny thing? You know, remember how I told you that the toxicity and the deficiencies are making men more like women and women more like men? So when they gave more selenium, higher selenium levels showed lower masculinizing hormones. Well, do you want to know what happens in men when they get their selenium better? You see more testosterone in men, more of the correct hormones. So here's what I want you to think of. When you have hormonal problems, it's not the hormones are the symptom. They're not the cause of your issue. The hormones are a symptom. They're showing a deeper issue. So you fix the toxicities and you fix the deficiencies and the hormones start to fix themselves. Now, this is not a quick process. No one said it's simple. It's not easy. I'm not here to give people the quick way out. There is no quick way out. You can go and take hormones. We have lots of women who are on hormones and they're not really that pleased and they want to be off of them. Can hormones very quickly help your symptoms go away? Sure. It's a drug-like effect. You're covering it up with a Band-Aid. You're wearing crutches. You're not fixing any of the issue. You're fixing the symptoms. Just one quick example. Let's just pick two things that go together in these things: copper toxicity and zinc deficiency. And so let's say you have PCOS or you have endometriosis or you have just low libido or whatever. If you get on hormones and it helps your symptoms, does this change your copper toxicity or your zinc deficiency at all? No, it doesn't change a dang thing about them. And because you don't understand you didn't understand the root cause and you weren't doing anything about it, what do you think the copper toxicity and the zinc deficiency is going to do over time? It's going to slowly get worse because you're not doing anything about it. Does that make sense? And this is why all of a sudden over the years, the doctors are like, oh, well, your hormones are off. And then they try to fix them again. And you go, well, I don't feel it as much anymore, doc. Could you give me more? Could you give me more? What, do I need more progesterone? Do I need more estrogen? Do I need more testosterone? And they're just playing whack-a-mole trying to get your hormones right. Because the underlying problem is getting worse. That's why. When you actually fix these things, we start seeing men and women who use the hormones, they need less of them, and even with thyroid hormones, less of them until maybe someday they're able to get off of them. If they wanted to stay on it, like, look, if somebody wants to work with me and you want to stay on your hormones, I mean, that's fine. You can. And I'm not going to try to convince anybody to get off of them, but I'm going to tell them the reality of, like, if you're on estrogens, you're going to be accumulating more copper in your system. That's what they do. You'll see it in the IUD studies. So that, you can stay on them. If somebody wanted to for their quality of life, they're like, look, I'm not getting off of it. Or if they say, I'm not ready yet, they stay on them. We fix so see what we can do. What we do is we fix the underlying problem. That was the reason you had to get on the hormones in the first place. So as we fix the underlying problem, people start feeling better, and then they start feeling like they could get off of the hormones. They feel this way. I don't make anybody get off hormones. So we're almost done with PCOS. Selenium supplementation for polycystic ovary syndrome, a meta-analysis of randomized controlled trials. Conclusion. Selenium supplementation may be able to improve the metabolic response for polycystic ovary syndrome. I'm not going to read that, but this finding should be interpreted with caution. Let me tell you about the caution you should do. If you're not testing, you're just guessing. So if you want to know, I saw somebody mentioned that they tested their selenium and it was high. I'm assuming you mean tested your blood selenium. Well, blood selenium is not what I use. I use hair selenium. Hair selenium is better. This is the thing to know about. Some people will be like, hair testing is garbage. And then other people will say, like, minerals in the blood. They're like, minerals in the blood is totally determined by what you just ate the day before. These are all true. But like as an example, if you did a blood test and you took selenium the day before, the day of or the day before, your selenium is going to be higher in your blood than it should be. This is the problem with blood tests. People think B vitamin blood tests are great, but the problem is B vitamin blood tests super duper are reliant on what you just ate the day of and the day before. B vitamin tests reflect your intake. Doesn't necessarily reflect how much you have in the tissues and other stuff. And don't ever think that you don't store B vitamins. B6 is stored in the nerves. B6 is an alcohol and an aldehyde, and it creates neuropathy if you get an excess of it. It stores in your nerves. So anybody who tells you lies, you don't store B vitamins, you can just take them and any excess goes out in your piss. No, it's not true. Piss, they like that word. It's go look up B6 neuropathy. Go have fun with that. Go on Facebook groups and look up B6. Go to the website understanding-b6toxicity.com. I believe that's the name of it. It is just they make your B vitamins from petroleum byproducts. So you know how they used to say, well, they get rid of the fluoride. The fluoride was a waste product of some industry, and Joe, that was comment. That was me saying PS. Will was joking about it. But anyway, so you know how they'll say, oh, fluoride was a waste product of some industry and that they needed to find a use for it, so they give it to humans. B vitamins are a waste product of the petroleum industry. Did you know this? Yes. Then people will be like, but if they're in food, they're okay. That's a long story. But you definitely, if you're taking B vitamins that are byproducts of the petroleum waste industry, maybe think that through. So anyway, selenium. They say it should be interpreted with caution. Let me warn you about selenium supplements. Can you overdo selenium supplements? Yes. But people will be like, but natural selenium is totally okay. No, not totally. We had a gentleman in the Love Your Liver program who was having trouble controlling his intake of Brazil nuts. He was eating like 20 a day because what he said, once he started eating them, he couldn't stop. Well, do you want to know one of the most, like, what a prognostic, or what's the term I'm looking for in the medical research where they say this symptom is like diagnostic of this? There's a special word for it. Anyway, this gentleman he got to the point where he could not stop his brain from having sexual thoughts all day long, like pervasive, invasive sexual thoughts all day long. He went and researched. He was, people in the network are great. He went and researched this himself, and he found that this symptom was in like a book from the early 1900s, where they were talking about if you get too much selenium, it can cause these like invasive sexual thoughts. And he said he quit eating the Brazil nuts and it faded away. So get rid of the idea in your head of the nonsense of like, if it's from food, it can't be toxic. Don't get rid of that garbage. That is nonsense. You can get toxicity from natural sources or synthetic sources. Okay. But he fixed it because he did the research and then he shared it with me. Now, I had another woman in the program. Now, this is why they're saying findings should be interpreted with caution. I had a woman, she was taking like either 100 micrograms or 200 micrograms of a selenium supplement, one that I use with nearly all, the same thing I use with nearly all of my people. She got this symptom at this super low dose. This woman is sensitive, super sensitive to everything. So what do? We don't have her do it. It's very simple. Doc, it hurts when I do this. Then don't do that. Her hair test said she needed some selenium, but even at those low doses, she couldn't take it. So what are we going to do? We're either going to find a different supplement or we're just going to see if we can do it with food. We can see what amount she needs. This is one of the things about what I do here is I can deal with sensitive people because if people say I can't do that, then I say we find something else. We try to find another approach. Maybe we don't have to find another approach. Maybe we can fix this without a supplement. Okay? So, let's go to endometriosis. Oh, I'm on that one already. There we go. So here, I'm going to go through this one a little faster. Oh, let me blow my nose before I start. Okay. Yeah, so Hope was saying she could eat 20 to 30 Brazil nuts without those effects. So this is we respect people's bio-individuality. Okay. Like, again, the analogy of we're all cars in a way. When you think of when you learn about the body system like it's a car, like the different systems of it, and you stop believing all like the urban legends about health and all the stuff that people, I swear they just make up BS out of their heads. And you start treating it like a system and you go, well, there's different automobiles on the road. There's semi trucks and then there's little like smart cars. Do those two things need different types of oil, amounts of oil, types of gas, amounts of gas, types of lubrication, all of that stuff? Yes. There's still, internal combustion engines that need similar things, but they need different amounts and different approaches to these things. Okay, that's how these things work, and this is why if you're a practitioner out there and you're watching this, if your mind is open to, okay, like everybody needs zinc, but let's say there's somebody out there who could just get it from red meat and that was enough. And let's say there's somebody out there like me who seems to need more than my foundational amount of zinc. And just so you guys know, if you're out there and you're trying to take zinc, the only zinc I use is zinc picolinate. And if you are not testing, hear me carefully, if you are not testing, the maximum I take people up to is 30 milligrams. If you go above 30 milligrams of zinc picolinate without testing, you're on your own. Don't ever blame me for taking too much zinc because I just said stop at 30. You go over that, you're on your own. Not my problem. If you're not working directly with me, I am a doctor, but I'm not your doctor. Take some responsibility. If you're going to go beyond, and could 30 milligrams be too much for somebody? Yes. So if you don't feel good on 30 milligrams, take less. This is how we do things. Anybody who ever takes a supplement that they think I suggested, and they're like, I've been taking this for a month and I feel bad on it. I'd be like, you didn't listen to the instructions at all. I would have said, you don't feel good on it, go down in dose. This is not hard. Doc, it hurts when I do that. Then don't do that. So let's get on into endometriosis. So remember, endometriosis, it is, well, here, I'll just read it for you. Here's the paper. Yeah, Hope gave a good suggestion. Don't start at 30 milligrams. Go move up to it. On the store, on the Nutrition Detective store, I specifically made a liquid zinc picolinate that is 2 milligrams a drop. It's water and zinc picolinate. So many people out there are like, I don't like all these supplement companies putting all these fillers and additives and all this stuff. That's why I'm making my own supplement line. Lactoferrin with nothing in it. The Keystone Minerals has the 3 ingredients, the zinc and the molybdenum and the selenium that I like at the foundational doses. And I had to put a filler in it. I talked about why companies will put fillers in it. It's because the consumers will have a fit if the capsule's not full. Yeah, there it is, the dropper. The dropper on there is the liquid zinc picolinate. There it is. So people, the problem is that the consumer will have a fit if it's not full. So I had to fill it with something. So what did I put into it? I put in magnesium malate, which is a oral magnesium that I like. Surfing asks, is zinc gluconate okay? It's okay if you want zinc that doesn't work very well. Yeah. I prefer zinc that works. Zinc gluconate, in my experience, does not work. Is it okay? Yeah, I don't know that it's damaging, but it's not helpful. That's the grocery store zinc. Yes, there you go. Do you think they're selling useful stuff in grocery stores? No. Okay, so here we go. Endometriosis is a relatively common condition. Wait, so it's common for women to be growing endometrial tissue outside of their uterus, in which endometrial tissue is established in locations outside the uterus, where, like the utopic endometrium, it responds to hormonal stimuli and develops internal bleeding, inflammation, and fibrosis. These changes are associated with chronic and often debilitating cyclic pain and infertility. The pathogenesis of endometriosis is multifactorial. I'm not going to argue with that. And several theories have been proposed to explain it. I don't think that they've got it. There is no known cure for endometriosis, and treatment mostly consists of managing chronic pain or infertility. Oh, you mean treating the symptoms? Gosh, imagine that. So, let's go into this one. Let's go. Here we go. Endometriosis is a common disease affecting 5 to 10% of women of reproductive age globally. However, despite its prevalence, diagnosis is typically delayed by years, misdiagnosis is common, and delivery of effective therapy is prolonged. I mean, if, let's say, birth control was causing all of this endometriosis, do you think the pharmaceutical industry is going to put a lot of energy and money into figuring out the cause of it? Or figuring out the quick diagnosis of it? I don't think there was much else I wanted to do in here. Nope, I think that was it on it. I just wanted to go over the basics of it. So let me see. New adverse obstetrics outcomes associated with endometriosis, a retrospective cohort study. Let me see what I wish the little I wish my highlighting of it didn't disappear when where was it? Oh, this is what I wanted. So, toxic bile theory. Okay, intrahepatic cholestasis of pregnancy. They abbreviate it ICP in here, down here. ICP. Where do they have it up here with the? Oh no. Anyway, ICP is intrahepatic cholestasis of pregnancy. What does that mean? What does intrahepatic cholestasis of pregnancy mean? It means leaking bile into your bloodstream from the liver itself. Intrahepatic means from within the liver. Intra, within, hepatic is liver. Cholestasis means bile is either refluxing, like going back up into the stomach. You ever hear of morning sickness in pregnancy? That's bile going back up into your stomach, ladies, and causing you to become nauseous. That's exactly what it is. You ever heard of anybody else explaining it that made any other sense? I'm not going to go find the study right now, but now it is said that subclinical, so below their ability to diagnose it, subclinical intrahepatic cholestasis of pregnancy should now be considered a normal feature of pregnancy. Am I telling you that liver disease is the cause of chronic disease? And does it seem like almost everybody has a chronic disease these days? And it's become normal for women to be leaking bile into their bloodstream during pregnancy. Normal. That's normal now. It's become almost normal for children to be born with jaundice these days. Jaundice is bilirubin leaking back into the blood. So it's normal for kids to be born with cholestasis these days, with toxic bile leaking into their blood. Okay, so now let's just read this. Conclusions. Our results showed for the first time that women with endometriosis are at a higher risk of developing intrahepatic cholestasis of pregnancy and experiencing an induced labor. I'm going to tell you that these things are all connected. They're all absolutely, it's not one cause, the intrahepatic cholestasis of pregnancy, the people were already leaking bile into their blood. pregnancy, because this is why you got to be careful with hormone therapies. Let me put it to you this way. If you have hormonal issues, or you become, ladies, if you become pregnant, your hormone production goes through the roof. Okay. Let's not even talk about the kids who are the men who the women who are men who are pregnant and they're taking male hormones and what that's going to do to those children when they're born. Let's not even talk about that. Let's just talk about normal women. But they start making tons of hormones during pregnancy. Hormones are the most difficult thing for your liver to process. They're super complex for your liver to process. So just think, if your body starts, your other organs and your ladies, your female reproductive organs pretty much all make hormones. It's not just your ovaries. Like the adrenals make hormones. The uterus makes hormones. You can look it up on PubMed. It's amazing that they don't teach people this when it's right on PubMed. Okay, so just because a woman goes into menopause doesn't mean that her hormone production goes to zero. Your adrenals are still doing it. The uterus, if you still have it, is still doing it, and that stuff. But the hormone surge of pregnancy, or let's say you're taking additional hormones, that's all a load on your liver. And I'm going to tell you, if you had a hormone problem to begin with, your liver wasn't keeping up, and now you just added more hormones for your liver that wasn't keeping up to process. And that's why it tends to slowly go downhill anyway, even though you're taking hormones. All these guys on TRT, man, I don't think it's going to end as well as they hope. So what I was just getting at with the ICP and endometriosis is it's all connected. And one of the evidences we have of cholestasis, toxic bile leakage getting worse during pregnancy is I can tell you the copper levels on a woman go, if you've never seen, if you don't do blood copper levels, when you see a pregnant woman and you see her copper levels on a blood test, and you've maybe seen her before she got pregnant, and then you see her during, unreal. Like women will go up into normally I like people to be between about 75 and 90 on a serum copper test. You'll see women who are pregnant like 160, 180, 210. Like it's crazy. I mean, they're copper toxic by the normal standards. And all that happened was they got pregnant and the stored copper came out of their liver. And then weird thing that pregnant women often don't feel good. Why do you think that is? Well, maybe it's because they got tons of other vitamin A will go up too in their blood. And you'll see these things that are markers of toxicity go up, and then the women don't feel good. Intrahepatic cholestasis is now considered to be a normal part of pregnancy. More bile, more copper, more vitamin A. What a weird coinkydink that they're all going up together and these women feel bad. And there's tons of women. Yeah, Hope posted her copper went from 109 to 147 in a month. So Hope's been dealing with copper toxicity for a long time. And then she got pregnant and then it just spiked up in a month. She didn't take in more copper. She's not eating copper much. So where's the only place that copper can come from? The only place it can come from is stored in her liver. Yeah, that's 1 month after she got pregnant. So anyway, connecting it to toxic bile. Let's keep going. Now, is it all just copper and vitamin A and all that stuff? No. I've never said that. All the things you have been exposed to in your life, medications, environmental toxins, pokies, all of them, not just the recent experiment. Mercury, lead, cadmium, toxic metals, arsenic, if you were a big rice eater, we're looking at all copper, manganese, vitamin A. It's not just, any of those things can cause what's called liver injury, cholestasis, toxic bile leaking into your blood. All these things contribute to the problem. So then generally we want people to avoid as much of all of them as they can. The only problem is the things I talked about here with vitamin A and copper, people still think that those are good for them. And so they try to get plenty of them, or they don't start to think that maybe they could avoid their exposure to them. And so they actually make themselves sicker with nonsense like eating liver or eating eggs or doing green drinks or carrot juice or making themselves worse with taking lutein supplements. But you can get the vitamin A toxicity and the copper toxicity from all sorts of different avenues, folks. But if you already injured your liver and then all of a sudden you get on a health kick that's actually toxic, and then this is why, how many people do you know, or maybe this was you in the past, and you were like, why am I doing all these things that I think are healthy and I feel worse? Or maybe you see your friend and they go on a health kick and you're like actively watching them go downhill. And they're like, I'm doing all of these things to be so healthy. And you're like watching them. It's like the vegan influencer who just died of malnutrition. Do you think any of her friends saw that coming? Probably all of them. But often we have these people convincing themselves that they're healthy. And they're doing these exact wrong things. They think it's okay because it's in food and it's natural. I'm gonna be working on getting a new PC this week, so hopefully we can have the better resolution and all that stuff. But anyway, so here we go. Let's go back to this paper. Environmental exposures to endocrine disrupting chemicals and their role in endometriosis, a systematic literature review. Now, I don't remember if I put this one on there, so I'm just going to put it again. Let's just... Conclusion, we found some evidence to suggest an association between phthalate esters, bisphenol A, BPA, organochlorinated environmental pollutants, and the prevalence of endometriosis. 71% of the studies revealed a significant association between BPA, organochlorinated environmental pollutants like dioxins, dioxin-like compounds, organochlorinated pesticides, polychlorinated biphenyls, phenols, however you want to say it, and the prevalence of endometriosis. Oh, here's the other part. A positive association between copper, chromium, and prevalence of endometriosis was demonstrated in one study only. Copper and chromium. I'm going to tell you, chromium is not an essential nutrient. If you didn't know that yet, chromium is not essential. It's toxic. So, high copper, high chromium, along with all these other toxic things. Boy, birds of a feather flock together, don't they? So let's keep going. Was this it? Yeah, this is a different one. Or wait, let me just double check. Just making sure it's not the same people. Sarohi Ramadani. Let me just see. Nope, different people. Okay. So, I mean, there will be people out there who, let's say, practitioners who are trying to help people with endometriosis. And they'll be like, you really need to avoid phthalates and you really need to avoid dioxins and is all that true? Absolutely. But let's say they're noticing that they're not getting very far with their clients. Their clients aren't making much progress. And yet the practitioner's like, do these green drinks, eat liver, eat kidneys, do all these things, you know, take flaxseed oil, make some more Malondialdehyde. No, don't do that. So, the results showed the positive associations, as in more toxins, more endometriosis, between some persistent organic, POPs. Let me remind myself what it is. I thought it was persistent organic pollutants. Yes. The results showed the positive associations between some persistent organic pollutants, as in like they're talking about forever chemicals, like PFAS, and endometriosis risk, including the pesticide transnonachlor. Yeah. Oh, and here we go. The last one. It was all, they just throw this in this last sentence. It was also highlighted a specific metabolic pattern characterized by dysregulation of bile acid homeostasis and lipase activity. Bile acid homeostasis, dysregulation of it. Wow, weird. We wouldn't talk about that here. So they're talking about persistent, organic pollutants, toxic chemicals in the environment, and then they throw in it dysregulated bile acid homeostasis. It could affect your gut biome. Your gut biome affects the bile. That bile gets reabsorbed. 95% of your bile on a normal daily basis gets reabsorbed and it goes right back up to your liver. 95%. So if that toxic bile, if it's really toxic, you're just recirculating all that stuff. This is why we do things like trying to get the right type and amount of soluble fiber for you. If you can do activated hardwood charcoal, try to do that. We want to bind up this bile and poop it out. And if you're trying to do the right things and you're noticing you feel worse, you're still leaking too much bile into your blood. And if you're trying to do things that dump bile, you're dumping more bile into your blood and you're feeling worse because of that. It's a poison on the way in and it's a poison on the way out. So if you're doing anything that you think I'm advocating and you're feeling worse, here's the key saying. Doc, it hurts when I do this. Then don't do that. Go back. And just realize when we talk about deficiencies here, when you detox, when you are really trying to get the body, like if you stop putting in the poisons, you will start detoxing. Your body naturally does. I mean, like I think the person earlier, somebody who was a copper lover was like, the body will easily detoxify itself of toxins. And you go, this makes absolutely no sense. I can just type in accumulate and then the word of a toxin on PubMed. You can find that toxins accumulate in people. Use that word. Don't type in store. Don't type in storage. Type in accumulate. The lack of brain power exhibited by people who are like, oh, as long as you have a functioning kidneys and liver, then you're detoxing. Of course you're detoxing. Can a car be running, but be running like crap? I mean, like, do people not use their brain anymore? Teresa, there is absolutely no research on charcoal taking anything extra out of the human body in terms of good nutrients. There was actually a study, so on charcoal, when people bring up the charcoal myth that charcoal grabs onto nutrients. The one study that everybody cites, like the Superfoodly website or whatever, they cite a study on apple juice. And they put some charcoal into apple juice and they saw it grab onto, weird, it grabbed onto some of the B vitamins and it grabbed onto vitamin C. And it made the apple juice clearer, like less orangish or yellow, brownish, tan, the color of apple juice, whatever color you want to call that. Golden brown, I don't know, whatever. But it took a little bit of the color away and it made it clearer. It increased the clarity. So it grabbed onto B vitamins, it grabbed onto vitamin C, it made the apple juice clearer, which means it was probably grabbing onto polyphenols and vitamin A. And then they have extended that study to try to say that in the human body, or charcoal grabs onto essential nutrients, when there is not a single study on charcoal ever reducing nutrients in a human body. There was a study that was done on people with colostomy bags, like they'd had part of their insides removed, their intestines removed. And what these people would do was so these people had part of their digestive study removed. So, right, they would be at high risk of nutrient deficiencies because they don't have as much to absorb, right? They're already set up to be nutrient deficient. And these people were taking charcoal, significant amounts every day. You want to know why? So their bag that they carried around with them wouldn't stink so much because they're carrying around their like porta potty bag with them, basically, right? Like a colostomy bag. So they were taking the charcoal to reduce the smell, and they did not develop any nutrient deficiencies, even though they were they missing part of their intestine, and they're taking significant amounts of charcoal every day. The people trying to tell you that charcoal takes away your nutrients are not interested in your health. They're controlled opposition, or they're just people who have been seduced by the propaganda. Now, charcoal can constipate you, absolutely, because it grabs onto your bile, and bile's the trigger to poop. We've talked about that before. Bile is your trigger to poop or not poop. If you do not have enough bile in your intestines, if it's going elsewhere, like into your blood, you may not poop very well. Over time, as we fix people's bile problems and the bile goes in, if chronically constipated people, we have a woman who was constipated her entire life, and now in her 70s, she's pooping. She's so happy to be pooping so much better, like 2 to 4 times a day. The bile, if you are constipated or if you have diarrhea, let me tell you something. It's your bile that's causing it. Constipated, there's not enough bile in your intestines, but the goal is not to try to dump more because the bile is going into your blood. That's why you have symptoms like hypothyroidism and other stuff like that. Diarrhea, there's too much bile in your guts, and your body's desperately trying to get rid of it so it doesn't cause things like leaky gut, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's, celiac. Your body's desperately trying to get rid of it before it can cause too much damage. If you have pooping problems, you have bile problems. So, endometriosis seems to be linked to toxic chemicals in the environment. Now, I didn't do this search on polycystic ovarian syndrome. I probably could have. These just came up and I decided to grab them as an example of other things that can affect the liver. Okay, for those of you who have been duped by the ceruloplasmin and bioavailable copper thing, here's a fun one. Copper, ceruloplasmin, and oxidative stress in patients with advanced stage endometriosis. Now, I may not remember all of these abbreviations, but results: serum total oxidant status. OSI is oxidative stress index. Copper, ceruloplasmin, triglyceride, total cholesterol, LDL were significantly higher. I'm going to skip this next part. In women with advanced stage endometriosis than in control groups. Okay, so serum copper was higher and serum ceruloplasmin was higher. Shouldn't they have all been protected? Shouldn't it all just be peachy keen? Because they'd have like more bioavailable copper? But no, they have more copper floating around and more ceruloplasmin. Here's an idea for any of you who are stuck on this ceruloplasmin nonsense. Look up ceruloplasmin and look up the words acute phase reactant. Ceruloplasmin and ferritin are both acute phase reactants. What does that mean? It means this is the best modern medicine understands about them. Modern medicine says these go up during times of inflammation or infection or disease. They go up. What am I going to... So like what they're saying, the chicken or the egg. Here's what I'm going to tell you. The health issue that pops up, that increased inflammation, somehow, something caused you to leak more bile into your blood during that time. What's in your bile that your liver makes? Ferritin. I went over this in a previous live stream. And ceruloplasmin. Protective proteins to help protect you against excessive iron, free iron in your blood, and free copper in your blood. That's why they go up. They're actually part of the cause of the inflammation. They're not protecting you from anything. I mean, the ceruloplasmin and the ferritin is, but they're not going into your blood because it's like a protective mechanism. It's because you're leaking bile. They come in the bile. The bile, they're made by the liver. They go into the bile's leaking into your bloodstream. And then modern medicine goes after the fact, after you are already inflamed. Then they go and they look, oh, ferritin and ceruloplasmin. Wow, this is interesting. These seem to go up during times of inflammation. Instead of going, maybe these are part of the whole cause of it. Maybe these are an indicator of something coming into the blood from inside. People don't want to think that it's hard for people to think that it is my liver and what it has stored that is poisoning me, right? It's what's inside of you. Like people know that it's your own bad thoughts that like ruin your life, right? I mean, it's our own stuff. It's not what other people are thinking of us. It's what we think of ourselves. We'll think about that in terms of the liver and the bile. There can be the mental, there can be the physical. We poison ourselves. So I want to go over a couple of things here. Serum copper was higher, yes. Serum ceruloplasmin was higher. Triglycerides. Let me just go over. Let me find this. Let's go triglycerides. Right there. Isn't that nice? So here's an article about, if you can see it there. Let me get back on here. Your high triglycerides are just poison / vitamin A toxicity. That's what I used to call it. I just call it vitamin A toxicity now, but I haven't fixed that yet. Tons of studies where they give retinoic acid or they give vitamin A and they see triglycerides go up. Your high triglycerides are a sign of liver injury and vitamin A toxicity. Okay, so back to this one. Total cholesterol, that'll make more sense in this next one. LDL. The LDL molecule actually has retinol in it. We call it the bad cholesterol. Oh, really? You mean the bad cholesterol is a binding lipoprotein? It's a binding protein for retinol? Weird. And we call it the bad one. So, yeah. They say here there was no difference in serum Malondialdehyde activities between the two groups. I'm going to show you later that that's not true in other studies. So, let's keep going. Analysis of the reason of abnormal uterine bleeding induced by copper corrosion of the copper IUD is what they're saying there. So you know how copper has its own kind of rust? It oxidizes, and it's the copper, the brassy color, right? But then it'll turn into the like turquoisey bluish green color. That's copper oxidizing. That's copper corroding. But I wanted to go in here and because I wanted to connect this to the endometriosis and copper toxicity and other stuff like that. So like I said before, I've done other research. I have a video on this YouTube about the birth control, oral contraceptives, raising copper and raising vitamin A in women's blood. Even though oral contraceptives they don't contain copper, they don't contain vitamin A, but they raise those things in the blood. What did I just tell you that are toxins that the body puts into the bile to get rid of? Vitamin A and copper. How then would vitamin A and copper get into the blood? Leaky bile. The birth control is giving you a liver injury, cholestasis, toxic bile leaking into your blood. And we see the evidence of this by vitamin A and copper going up when women take oral contraceptives. And then when that stuff's in your blood, it causes you more health problems. But anyway, daily copper IUD dissolution quantities of abnormal uterine bleeding women was significantly higher than that of regular menstruation women. So the copper was dissolving faster in the women with abnormal menstrual bleeding. So they're connected. Do you see? Copper ion content and the expression of VEGF in endometrial tissue of abnormal uterine bleeding was significantly higher than that of regular women endometrial tissue. So what I'm just getting at is the excess bleeding, ladies with heavy periods, can be linked to the amount of copper in the tissue. Okay, that's all I wanted out of this one. Now I wanted to go over this one because this is showing another one. Let me see if this is the one I was looking for. I wish my highlighting didn't disappear. No, I don't think this is the one I don't think I really wanted this one. Yeah, no, this was not really something I really wanted. Copper concentration in women's endometrium and in peripheral blood after prolonged use of intrauterine devices. This is the one I wanted. So they had 66 women who have used an IUD for a significant amount of time. A control of 16 non-users was included. How hard would it be for them to find 16 non-users? In the control group, the copper concentration in the serum was a mean of 100 gamma per 100 cc of serum. And in the endometrial tissue, a mean of 251 gamma to 100 grams of wet tissue. So just remember 100 in the blood, basically in the serum, and 251 in the tissue. Women who didn't use birth control. Okay. In women using IUDs with no copper, so hormonal IUDs, watch this. The concentration in the serum was in the normal range. Okay. But in endometrial tissue, it was between 457 to 586 gamma per 100 grams. Twice as much. Twice as much copper in the endometrial tissue in the non-copper IUD. What? And we just showed that copper was associated with more bleeding in the endometrial tissue. You see how this is all connecting, ladies? Like your menstrual problems are copper problems, and they're also vitamin A problems. I feel if you got duped by the copper people, I'm sorry. I'm here to save you from that. Similar findings came with the examination of women using IUDs containing copper. So copper IUDs and hormonal IUDs without copper caused the same accumulation of copper in the endometrial tissue. Gosh, let's say a woman's body says, I can't store any more copper here. I've run out of room. I can't put it anywhere. What should we do? Let's start making endometrial tissue and other parts of the body so we can store all of this toxic copper. And then every month, what would be one way if a woman's body stores extra copper and other toxins in the female reproductive organs? What would be an extra way of detox a woman has every month that she could use? Bleeding, menstrual bleeding. What would an extremely toxic woman's body probably want to do then? Bleed a lot. Okay? You have to always think that the body's trying to do the best it can in any situation. So the heavy bleeding, there's a cause to it, and we can fix this. So now let's get into the vitamin A. Endometriosis expresses a molecular pattern. See, this is the apologetics, consistent with decreased retinoid uptake, metabolism, and action. Okay, wait. If I'm trying to tell you that endometriosis is extra storage areas for poisons, weird that it may not want to store the poison, or it wants to send it somewhere else because maybe it's already full. And this is probably a cell study, if I recall correctly. Yeah, it's a cell study. Tissue and stromal cells from ovarian endometriomas. Conclusions. Endometriosis is characterized by a gene expression pattern suggesting a decrease in uptake and metabolism of retinoic acid. I'm just showing you that there's vitamin A problems. Notice how in any of these retinoid studies, from the polycystic or this one, that they never talk about vitamin A deficiency. Wait, what? They can't ever say any of these women are vitamin A deficient. Do you know that the US government has now, they stopped requiring food manufacturers to put vitamin A content on their nutrition labels because vitamin A deficiency is so rare in the US that they don't even think they need to tell you how much vitamin A is in the food anymore because they can't find deficiencies anywhere. So for all of you people out there who were believing in vitamin A as a good thing, it's not. And there's tons of it. So much that the government has said we don't need to label it on food anymore. And I show you in autopsies that 1/3 of the population with biopsies of their liver are diagnosably toxic in their liver. And the best thing about that study showed that they wouldn't have found the vitamin A toxicity at all in their blood. Their livers were totally toxic. Even the toxic people, they looked at their blood and they couldn't find vitamin A toxicity in their blood. This is the hidden epidemic, folks. And they're going to say, oh, the endometrial cells can't uptake vitamin A. This is what's causing them their problems. Do you think the body's protecting itself somehow? Maybe. But then again, it's a cell study. So the duration paradox, which is something that I talk about a lot, is that what you see in cell studies is typically exactly the opposite in the whole body. So they're sitting here saying one cell suggests a decrease in uptake and metabolism of retinoic acid. So what's going on in the real body? Maybe there's too much. Oh, here's the more apologetics. Retinoic acid biosynthesis is impaired in human and murine, which is mouse, endometriosis. So notice how they don't talk about vitamin A deficiency. They just say retinoic acid biosynthesis. So really what they're saying here is they're saying you're not making enough retinoic acid in your endometrium. And that's why you're getting endometriosis, which is, then you start going, well, why is the body forming endometrial tissue elsewhere then? Why would it just not keep the problem there? Why is it spreading the problem? They're saying when you see this retinoid signaling and retinoic acid biosynthesis, they're trying to tell you that you need 13 cis retinoic acid sold in pills as Accutane, and that you need all trans retinoic acid sold in creams as Retin-A, and alitretinoin 9 cis retinoic acid sold as chemotherapy. They're saying that you need these things that are exactly the same chemicals as those pharmaceuticals I mentioned, that you need these things, and because you're not making enough of these things, you're getting endometriosis. You have an Accutane deficiency. You have a Retin-A deficiency. You have an alitretinoin deficiency. No, you don't. You never had any deficiency of any vitamin A compound at all. So, quantitation of retinoids in murine endometriosis and in RBP1 mice supports the contention that impaired ATRA synthesis caused by reduced retinol binding protein 1 promotes an endometriosis phenotype that enables cells to implant and grow at ectopic sites. Reduced retinol binding protein 1. Retinol binding protein 1. What is that made for? That's to protect you against vitamin A, retinol. It's a binding protein. It protects you. Weird. So you don't have enough retinol binding protein 1 to protect you, and you're developing issues. And they're saying not enough. You're not making enough all trans retinoic acid, which is ATRA, which is Retin-A, which is in the same stuff that when they gave ATRA, Retin-A to US veterans in a huge study with the supposed contention that they were going to reduce skin cancer, and they had already selected out the veterans that they thought had a high chance of dying soon, they had to stop that study because too many of them were dying. And they're going to sit here and claim that these women with endometriosis have an ATRA deficiency. They have a Retin-A deficiency. Does it start to sound ludicrous after a while? It does to me. Oh, wait. Oh, here's aldehyde dehydrogenase and endometriosis. Weird. It's almost like there's these same patterns in all of these chronic diseases. Aberrant, that means abnormal or problematic, right? Reactive aldehyde detoxification by aldehyde dehydrogenase 2 influences endometriosis development and pain-associated behaviors. But here's a tip. I just don't want anybody to misunderstand here. If you go out and you start looking at studies and you find things that raise aldehyde dehydrogenase 2, you better be very, very careful, because if somebody takes something like a supplement that raises ALDH activity, if you took something that was not an essential nutrient and it raised your ALDH, you should be very scared that that is a toxic thing. Because why else would the body increase its detox enzymes? Does that make sense? Do you know that in a study of mice, the young mice, when they drank alcohol, it raised their ALDH. The old mice, it lowered their ALDH. The same compound. You ever seen how younger people don't get the hangovers that older people do? Do we think that ethanol alcohol is anything except a toxin? It is only a toxin, folks. So, young mice took ALDH and they're still young. Their ALDH ramped up because it was a poison that their body wanted to detox. Now, the older mice, this is the problem as we get older, folks. Their nutrients they're more toxic because they've been alive longer. They're more nutrient deficient because they've been alive longer, and they're feeding them like laboratory mice slop garbage food. And they can't compensate when they take in the toxin. So they actually get slower. The more toxic you get, folks, the more your detox slows down. It speeds up when it can, like in a cell study. But if you keep in a real body over time, it slows down. That's the perfect example of the young mice versus the old mice with alcohol. You wouldn't want to think that alcohol sped up their detox mechanism. No. It's just like with white blood cells. When people say, oh, I took this herb and it raised my white blood cells. Your white blood cells are the garbage men of your system. They go around to find the toxic stuff to bring it to the liver. So if you're taking something and you go, oh, it boosts my white blood cells, that's not a good sign. And over time, it's going to go down, just like people who drink coffee to help their energy eventually end up more tired. Anything that spikes it in the beginning is going to drop it over time, unless it's an essential nutrient that you need to function. Like selenium is necessary to run ALDH. Necessary. This doesn't mean we go and take stupid amounts of selenium to try to boost ALDH more than normal. That's not what we're trying to do. Anyway, let's see. Elevated levels. So what I'm telling you is in most diseases, we're going to see overall in the system lowered levels of ALDH, but you might see increased levels of ALDH in certain tissues like endometrial tissues. Elevated levels of reactive aldehydes such as 4-hydroxynonenal, an aldehyde, right? Al, whenever you see Al at the end, that's generally an aldehyde, have been implicated in the peritoneal fluid of women with endometriosis. And upon accumulation, reactive aldehydes can form protein adducts. They bind to proteins. Some of that's a protective mechanism, and or generate pain. A key enzyme in detoxifying reactive aldehydes to less reactive forms is the mitochondrial enzyme aldehyde dehydrogenase 2. We determined in the eutopic and ectopic endometrium of women with severe peritoneal endometriosis that ALDH2 enzyme was decreased, which was associated with decreased ALDH2 expression and increased 4-hydroxynonenal adduct formation compared to the eutopic endometrium of controls in the proliferative phase. Okay? This is where you don't want to mess yourself up, folks. That says, we determined that increasing ALDH2 activity with the enzyme activator ALDO1, nobody sells this, or maybe you can buy it. I don't even want to talk about that. You go and you play with this, you're on your own. Could prevent endometriosis lesion development as well as alleviate pain-associated behaviors in proestrus. They're saying that speeding up your ALDH is, in theory, a way that they could help endometriosis. How about, what if we stopped putting in so many aldehydes so your ALDH2 can use its power to go after the stuff that's already there? What if we take, like, do you know that you need selenium and molybdenum in proper amounts to run ALDH? You also need folate in proper amounts to run ALDH. Hey, do you know that vitamin A turns into an aldehyde called retinaldehyde, and it could deplete all of these nutrients? Alcohol would deplete it. Other aldehydes, cinnamaldehyde. If you're a lover of cinnamon, what gives it its flavor and its smell is cinnamaldehyde. Vanillin is the aldehyde in vanilla. If you're a big spice and herb user, you're putting in tons of aldehydes. It's just the way it is. So we reduce the number of aldehydes coming in. So here's what we do. This is like an overview, concept, principle of what we do. We stop putting in so many poisons. So when we're talking about ALDH2, we reduce the aldehydes overall coming in. We then help the body to get rid of stored toxins in the liver. Your liver stores alcohols bound to fatty acid esters. Do you know your liver can actually store alcohol in it for up to 24 hours as ethyl fatty acid esters? You can actually store alcohol. They would never tell you that. But then we give it the nutrients it needs to run the detox pathways and protect you from these things. That would be like, let's say with the case of ALDH, it would be selenium and molybdenum. It's a concept. So they gave these using rats, they gave them this ALDA1, which is supposedly a drug-like ALDH booster. And they saw improvements. They've never started selling this ALDA1. If it was non-toxic and it really worked, you know why they're not going to sell it. And if it's too toxic, you know why they're not going to sell it. Yeah. So we just saw that there was a problem with aldehyde dehydrogenase. So let's go into Malondialdehyde, the thing that PUFAs turn into. So we would expect Malondialdehyde to be higher in women with endometriosis. But they're talking here infertility, which is something we help with a lot for people. As the joke goes, as the saying goes, this work makes women dangerously fertile. Like, they have to be really, really careful with if they're trying not to get pregnant, they have to be very, very careful, because especially if both the husband and the wife are doing this stuff, y'all are going to be so fertile. Yeah. We had a 40-year-old woman, her and her husband, she told me, this is a true story. 40-year-old woman told me, she's like, my husband and I, we don't want to have kids. And I said to her, you need to really, she's like, where they're doing the monitoring the fertility. Somebody give me the name for that. Anyway, the natural method of watching fertility markers and the cervical mucus and all that stuff. Anyway, I'm not very educated in that particular side of things. So she said they messed up one time she was pregnant. One time they messed up. She knew when they messed up, and she said, and then I'm pregnant. So if you or someone you know wants to become more fertile, the work that we do, they can go do the IVF and all that stuff and take all those hormones and take all those drugs and go into the doctor all the time and I want you to understand what the fertility programs are going to do to you. They're going to make you unhealthier. They're going to ruin your health and your liver with drugs. Yeah, the rhythm method or fertility awareness method. Yes, those are some of the names of it. Yes. So, but they're going to ruin your health. You're going to spend tens of thousands of dollars, and you're going to end up sicker than you were before, and your baby's going to be sicker than it should be. Yes, you may still have a baby, but the baby's going to be sicker because the mother's sicker. If y'all don't know this, we all hand down some of our toxicity to our children. I know, ladies, this is really hard for you to hear. but that baby is marinating in you for 9 months. It's made of you. So if you are toxic, that baby is toxic, and the studies show it. And jaundice is going like through the roof. I talked to a lady who provides like the baby formulations, like the IV stuff. She was a rep for like a pharmaceutical company that sells the newborn neonatal ICU like feeding tubes and all that kind of stuff that goes in there. I said jaundice is going through the roof, isn't it? I went on a date with her, actually. This is just one date. But she was like, yeah, she said it's insane. The amount of jaundice they have in the hospitals right now in newborns is insane. Ladies, if you want to do my work, I don't suggest getting pregnant. I don't suggest starting the vitamin A detox while you're pregnant, other than maybe some basic changes. Or I suggest doing 6 months of the Love Your Liver program, the vitamin A detox and that stuff before you try to get pregnant, just to get that initial wave of toxicity out of you. Maybe it's more conservative than I need to be, but I really, when women get pregnant on this, inside of this work, in this program, they have better pregnancies, whether they just feel better or the pregnancy outcome is better. We had one woman who had like cleft lip and cleft palate in all of her kids until I told her like what to do. And she did that. And then all of a sudden she has her first child without cleft lip or cleft palate. I've had women who have jaundice every kid until all of a sudden the kid they have while working with me. This is what we're doing. This is what we are fixing. We have another woman who's had probably, I know she's got count of her miscarriages, but she's had so many miscarriages over the years, but she can tell, she's even still had them while she's with us, but she can tell that they're getting better. Like whatever her issue is, she can tell that it's improving. We hadn't fixed it yet. And I don't claim quick cures. Everybody who knows me knows I don't say anything about this is quick. It's a marathon, not a sprint. If you want to fix this, we are fixing the problems. We are not covering them over. Think about this. Ladies, you got to think about this. And guys, think about this in terms of you too. Ladies, if you're going to a fertility clinic, and I mean this in the nicest way, your body has said, I am not healthy enough to get fertile right now, to have a baby. Your body is saying things are wrong. Things are not okay. Having a baby at this time is not in my best interest, so we're not going to do it. You may be nutrient deficient. You may be toxic. You're probably both. So then you're going to go and get all these drugs, which what drugs do, or herbs for that matter, is they force your body to do something that it doesn't want to do for whatever reason. The body's intelligent. It knows everything, way more than you do. It's either it doesn't want to do it or it can't do it right now. Doesn't want to do it or it can't do it. So then you can go and force all of these hormones on it. Your body wasn't wanting to have a pregnancy and you're going to force it on it, and then you're going to hope to have a healthy baby out of that after you just put more toxic pharmaceuticals in yourself. It's not the way. We're fixing the mother's health, and by doing that, we are helping to fix the baby's health before it's ever even conceived. So, anyway, back to the study. We found significantly higher concentrations of Malondialdehyde in peritoneal fluid from both patients with unexplained infertility and with endometriosis compared to the control group. Who says there's aldehyde problems out there? Remember, vitamin A is an aldehyde. Next one, the possible role of zinc in the etiopathogenesis of endometriosis. Guess what we're going to find here, folks? We're going to find something I'm sure you expect already. We'll keep this quick. Conclusion, the results showed that serum zinc levels in women with endometriosis are decreased, And this seems to actually confirm that this microelement can possibly affect the multifactorial pathogenesis of the disease. As a matter of fact, zinc interferes with many biological processes, among which inflammation and immunity, which seem to be the base of the development of the lesions. I really hope these guys that English is not their first language. Like, zinc interferes with inflammation and immunity, and that's how it's helping? How about you need zinc to not be inflamed and to have a properly running immune system? Anyway, zinc could in fact be used as a marker to detect women at high risk of endometriosis. Wow. Low zinc might put somebody at a high risk for endometriosis. Do you think they're connected? Right. Pierre's saying they try to make zinc seem bad while they make copper seem good. LOL. Yes. It's propaganda. All these copper people out there, lump them with Bill Gates trying to push vitamin A. It's either controlled opposition or just delusion. Sorry. You know, I can do that. I did this research in like an hour. This is not hard to find. I know what I'm looking for. It's out. It's not like I'm looking in secret sources. So now on to the next one. Oh, come on. Just paste it. There we go. Okay. So this was the only one I could find on selenium. They don't remember they were just in that last one. They were trying to warn people about too much selenium and too much. Yes, these things do happen, but they never even did a study on like blood selenium and endometriosis. This is the best I got. The results: the antioxidant intake, vitamin C, vitamin E, selenium and zinc of women with endometriosis showed a significant, I think they meant to say, statistical difference when data was compared with the control group, including total group and those stratified into pathology stages. Okay. So they're saying selenium and zinc intake. Oh, they hope they have nothing on molybdenum. Nothing. Actually, there wasn't even much on magnesium, and that one was trying to say that magnesium was bad for endometriosis, and I was like, sure. Try to repeat that study. So anyway, that's that. Was there one more here? No, that was my triglycerides. So, okay. Could you help me, or anybody else who's on the YouTube stream? Could you go repost the super chats at the bottom of the chat so I can find them quickly? I'm going to try to look through here, but as I went over before, this chat is just terrible in terms of it doesn't here. Okay, so I got Ben's. Ben asks, thoughts on using ginkgo biloba as a temporary solution, as in less than 1 year, to increase oxygen in the brain. Hold on. Where am I going to do this? Let me do a new window. Well, we'll just do it at the end here. One of the things ginkgo biloba does specifically is it slows down your cytochrome P450 system. That's one of the later stages of detox in your liver. You don't want to. Sorry, this is inducing it. They have other ones. You don't. So this is two things. It's like with the aldehydes and cytochromes. You have to be careful with this because you go, if it induces a detox pathway, you're like, why? Why is it when I'm taking an herb that it doesn't have the essential nutrients aren't doing this? It's having, like they're saying here, bilobicides or whatever. Bilobalides. Why is it speeding up detox enzymes? Okay. Let me see if there was anything else. Then you can always search for toxicity with it. So whenever you're messing, so imagine, let me get this paper because I do believe we have something useful here in this paper. Did that? There it is. Okay, yes. So, like I said, whenever things, we don't have a lot of long-term studies, and you're talking about 1 year. If it's an herb, it's a Band-Aid solution. No one has an herb deficiency. Okay, so we can assume that either herbs are doing their benefit either through some essential nutrient that we do need in there, or it's something like a drug-like effect that may help in the beginning, but it will cause the very problems it's helping in the end. That's like the duration paradox, or it'll cause other problems. So that's why when I saw the induction of cytochrome, I was like, ooh, this is not good. The National Toxicology Program conducted 2-year gavage studies on 1 ginkgo biloba leaf extract and concluded that there was clear evidence of carcinogenic activity of this extract in mice based on an increased incidence of hepatocellular carcinoma, liver cancer, and hepatoblastoma. Hepato's liver blastoma. I'm guessing that's another type of liver cancer off the top of my head. That doesn't come to me right away. So, recently, ginkgo biloba leaf extract has been classified as a possible human carcinogen, Group 2B, by the International Agency for Research on Cancer. I'm going to say it's a no from me, dog. No. The best thing you can probably do for your brain function is to make sure first you get your potassium intake correct. Absolutely. But yeah, I wouldn't do that. Let me see if there's anything in bile in here. Bile, nope. Cholestasis, no. Let's just go. Ooh, ginkgolide B, one of the major active components of ginkgo extracts, was reported to trigger significant injury of oocyte maturation. That's eggs. That would be like a woman's eggs. Fertilization and sequential embryonic development in ICR mice. Administered 1.6 micromoles ginkgolide B in drinking water for 4 days. So yeah, this paper, if you want to look through it, let me make sure it's a little bigger. I would look through this paper because this is going over the toxicology of ginkgo. Review of ginkgo biloba induced toxicity from experimental studies to human case reports. Yeah. Yeah, nah. So let me get to the bottom. Okay, let me see. Thank you for doing that, Will. Pierre got, okay, so we got Ben James there. Okay, from Brie or Bray, either way. Appendicitis runs in the family. Have had many flares many times. Escaped surgery. Feel better with activated charcoal / mag poultice. Possible to avoid surgery. Last appointment with you 12/22. Low vitamin A 1 year. I mean, I can't. If you're avoiding it for now, if you are taking in less toxic stuff and you're doing like activated charcoal and magnesium poultice, are you doing the magnesium lotion? So let me just go over these in case people want the quick recipes. These are I do my recipes a little different in terms of topical charcoal. Charcoal poultice. Most people do it with, I like hardwood charcoal. I don't like coconut charcoal. If that's all you can get, fine. But on my Amazon list, I found a really good hardwood charcoal. And some people have been telling me that the coconut charcoal is now smelling funny and tasting funny. Weird that all of a sudden starts getting poor quality. I don't trust coconut. I don't trust it. Anyway. Charcoal poultice. I do equal parts of organic psyllium. I have one on my Amazon list. That's down in the show information. Organic psyllium husk, equal parts with hardwood charcoal. Mix it up with enough water to make like a mask consistency. And then you apply that to the area. Leave it on at least 20 minutes. You can leave it on as long as you care to. If you got to move around with it, the only problem with the charcoal poultice is it'll fall off. So to keep it on, you might have to wrap it with like plastic wrap or something to keep it on you. Okay. Charcoal lotion. This is easy. You get a teaspoon of a lotion you like. You can do magnesium lotion. You mix a teaspoon of lotion. Like I said, it could be magnesium lotion with half teaspoon to 3/4 of a teaspoon of activated charcoal. Mash that all together. Put it on. Make sure it's on thick enough that it's at least still black. Like, don't rub it until it's gray. If it's gray, you don't have much charcoal going on. So make sure it still looks at least black. Leave that on for a minimum of 20 minutes. Then you could redo it. If you want to take it off, if it's still helping, leave it on. Like if you put it on a painful area and it got the pain down, you could leave it on. If you start feeling like it's not helping anymore, you want to redo it, just wash it off in the shower or whatever, and then do a new one. So yeah, I think one of the things, this was something, so this is not advice, this is something I read in a book. I think it was by Dr. Christopher. So this is something I read. This is not advice. This is something I read. The advice that Dr. Christopher wrote in this book, as I recall it, was that if there was a case of appendicitis, his suggestion was, he said the most important thing was to stop eating until the flare was well past. I remember this as this doctor, the Christopher, he was the cayenne pepper guy, cayenne pepper and water and other stuff. But he said the most important thing, I remember, don't eat. And then he said, if you're going to drink, it had to be warm water. For those of you out there, cold water, ice water is not good for your guts. It's not good for anything about your digestion. If you're going to drink anything on the cool side of water, it should be room temperature or warmer. Your digestive system loves warmth. Anybody who likes Ayurveda or Chinese medicine, they're always talking about warm. You put warm stuff down in your guts. Cooked food, warm water. Tea is what they use a lot, right? So, and then heat. He said heat applications over the appendix. So warm water to drink, heat applications over the appendix, and do not eat until the flare is long gone. So that was what Dr. Christopher said. I can say that I did, like a hot water bottle. Don't put an electric blanket over your appendix because electric blankets are crazy high EMFs. Don't go and put like a major EMF source over an inflamed area. That will not be good, like a hot water bottle. Or those rice packs that you can like heat up in the, this is one of the few things I would ever use a microwave for, would be to heat up something I'm not going to eat, like those rice packs. That's about all I'd ever use a microwave for. Or I might heat up water to use for something else that's never going to be consumed. Those are like the only two things I would ever use a microwave for. And they would stand far away from it while it's running. But that's where I would keep. Oh, my boy, I think had what I think was a little bit of an appendicitis attack. And I basically did those things with it. I didn't do them all as intensely as I should have, but he was past it. I did use some something that I'm not going to discuss here on the live stream that really helped him to get through it quickly. But by the next day, he was fine. Okay, so we got that. From Lucky, which type of magnesium is the best? Well, this all depends on the person. I'll go over the basics. Topical magnesium. Magnesium you absorb through your skin. In my opinion, in my experience, in watching tons of hair tests, Magnesium you absorb through your skin is the best for raising your levels. Oral magnesium, magnesium you take by mouth, is the best at helping you poop more. Because everybody knows if you take enough magnesium by mouth, you will crap. You will, no doubt. But it has a laxative effect, if you want to call it that, but it's not habit forming. So, topical magnesium, what most people use is magnesium chloride. This could be magnesium oil, as in like the mix of magnesium chloride and water as a spray. There's other magnesium chloride mixed. There's like LifeFlow made like an aloe vera and magnesium chloride roll-on. Like you can do magnesium lotion, which we are still working on our magnesium lotion product. I do believe that we are within I'm gonna overshoot here 2 months potentially of having that on the market. I believe we were at the 14th or 15th formulation because I wanted to get it just right. So we'll have the magnesium lotion is one approach. Magnesium baths is one approach. Magnesium foot soaks is another approach. Magnesium gel is another one. I don't like the gels. They're just terrible. One recipe I saw once was mixing equal parts of aloe vera gel and magnesium chloride powder. And then that's your magnesium gel. But the gels that are pre-made that are like all chemical-y, like gums and nasty other stuff, hydroxymethyl cellulose, whatever, I don't like those at all. They work. They're fine, but I don't like the ingredients, and I don't like the way they feel. They tend to burn and itch. So topical magnesium is the best way to raise levels. Oral magnesium, in my estimates, based on hair test feedback, oral magnesium will only work to raise levels in people in like 1 out of 20 people, like 5% of people. So if you're not testing and you're relying on oral magnesium to raise your levels, you're guessing, and you don't know if you're the 1 in 20 people who it actually works for. Like I tell people when I see their hair tests, I ask them what they're taking in terms of magnesium before this. And if they tell me oral and they're not doing any topical and their levels are good, I will say, you're lucky. You get to keep doing what you're doing. If it's not good enough, I'm like, see, this is why 19 out of 20 people, magnesium orally doesn't raise your levels. So I do not like, so let me back up. For topical magnesium, I do not like Epsom salts, magnesium sulfate, because I don't want the sulfur going into people. Sulfur slows down your detox pathways. Sulfur slows down ALDH. Hey. They actually make a drug called disulfiram, as in there's 2 sulfurs in it. Specifically, that drug is used to slow down ALDH. And then the types of reactions that certain other drugs cause are so commonly, they look like disulfiram reactions so often and so much that they call them disulfiram-like reactions. Gosh, what are those pharmaceuticals doing then? They're slowing down your ALDH. I've been over this before, that one of the methods they're trying to do for a male contraceptive pill is to slow down ALDH in the testicles. So you would not make retinoic acid, but you'd make extra retinaldehyde because you would bottleneck the ALDH. So typically topical magnesium, I really only talk about magnesium chloride. Oral magnesiums. If you want to poop, if you are trying to use magnesium to poop, and that's really what you're using oral magnesium for, magnesium oxide or magnesium hydroxide, typically the best ones, that they get you to poop with the least amount of taking them. They're the strongest at making you poop. Why? Because they're not absorbed well. Milk of magnesia is magnesium hydroxide. You can buy magnesium hydroxide powder from like bulksupplements.com or whatever. But milk of magnesia in the drugstore is just water and magnesium hydroxide powder. And they do some extra special things for you at the pharmacy. They put in like some bleach and probably some other things that you don't want. Aren't they so nice? Like, I'm sure they need to put bleach in it. I'm sure that's like a requirement. All of them will put bleach in there. Don't know why they do it, but they do. But so you can get magnesium hydroxide powder online. Magnesium oxide, you can buy it in pills or powder. Those are the worst absorbed. So they help you with the laxative effect the best. Now, I'm not going to get into all the other things, but the thing you must remember about oral magnesium, as well about any magnesium, is that when you take magnesium, it's going to be bound to something. What it's bound to matters because you just put something else in your body. So if you have magnesium citrate, it's magnesium bound to citric acid. The common way of making citric acid is by a genetically modified black mold aspergillus. So if you're going to do magnesium citrate, you want to make sure it's non-GMO. But still, you're adding citric acid to your system, which may or may, if your system likes it, great. If it doesn't like it, you'll feel it. There's magnesium glycinate. Well, that's glycine. So remember I talked earlier about glycine may be a friend of yours. It may be an enemy of yours. Which one is it going to be? I don't know. You just got to try it. There's magnesium taurate. Same thing, taurine. There's magnesium malate. That's one of, so the ones that I would tend to lean towards would be a non-GMO. Well, magnesium malate is the one I see people tend to get along with the best. Absolutely. Magnesium citrate has its own, citrate can have its own benefits. Citrate may actually chelate copper out. It actually can grab onto arsenic and other stuff, but for some people, it's too strong in terms of the detoxing. Some people can't handle it. So those are the basic ones. What else am I thinking of? I'm not remembering the other ones off the top of my head, but those are the basic ones. Some people have used magnesium chloride. If you get a pharmaceutical grade one, you can mix it with water and take it orally. There's the magnesium water, the magnesium bicarbonate. Maybe. I mean, whenever you take bicarb is like a drug level alkalizer. It's like a drug-like effect. It's an alkalizer that's at drug level. So if you take it and you don't need it, or you take it long enough that you get to the point where you don't need it and you keep taking, you're going to push yourself over too alkaline. It's the Goldilocks effect. We don't want your pH too acidic. We don't want it too alkaline. We want it just right. That doesn't mean right in the middle, but we want it just right. When you start taking drug level, like pharmaceutical grade bicarbonate, you could push yourself too far. Don't believe the people on the internet who are just like, bicarbonate will save the world. No, it can mess people up. I know people who did the alkaline diet for long enough that as their levels of alkalinity got higher and higher, they got sicker and sicker, and their teeth, this one guy's teeth were even falling out. This was before he told me this, after he got out of it. The whole alkaline diet stuff, as like, if you just get more and more alkaline, oh, you can't form cancers. Well, you have your teeth fall out. I mean, you can change, you can get out of one disease state and push yourself into another. Don't ever right? Like let's say if veganism got you to, you were so malnourished, your body's eating the cancer tissue because it's starving. And then you push yourself like that influencer did into death, right? You could make it so you eat away yourself. And what tissues might the body want to eat first if it's starving? Well, let's go eat this extra storage container tissue. And then when we run out of things to eat, we'll just die. So I talk to people about if you're not getting enough calories and you're not getting enough food, like starvation is a quick way to sickness and death. So I got to get to my inner circle. Let's see. So who was that? Teresa asked a super chat on the new supposed for the spiky protein, dissolving it supposedly. The recommendations of nattokinase, bromelain, nano, liposomal. I mean, first, we have the research showing that the pokey causes liver injury, cholestasis. It's out there. Here, let me see if I could. This is not hard to find anymore. There it is. Oh, they take it down? Oh, the page is gone now. You saw how this was in my saved pages. Oh, do you see? They don't want you to see this. Where'd it go? So the American Association for the Study of Liver Diseases. Here was the title of the paper. Liver injury following 19 mRNA pokey administration, the DILIN experience. And they had multiple case studies in there. Okay, so what we fix is liver injury, aka cholestasis. That is what we fix. The nattokinase, nobody has a deficiency in nattokinase. So the nattokinase, by definition, this is not a bad thing about it, but is the nattokinase a band-aid, a crutch? Yes, that's what if it's helping, that's what it is. Can you do it? Sure. Bromelain, if I was going to do something, if I decided I was going to do something like a proteolytic enzyme, I'd probably do serrapeptase or serratiopeptidase, but that's what nattokinase is. Nattokinase is a proteolytic enzyme. Generally, I do not like nano/liposomal stuff. What does nano/liposomal stuff do really? Well, I'll just say I don't trust anything nano. I'll just put it that way. Like when mainstream's talking about nanotech, and I'm like, oh, I want to avoid that. I don't want to do that. I don't want nano robots going through my blood, supposedly getting rid of diseases while they install a microchip in my brain. No, thank you. I'm good. I'll pass on that. Liposomal means it's coated in phosphatidylcholine, so it can go as deep into your liver as possible. Is that good? Is that bad? Well, I've been over before. Choline, phosphatidylcholine, is actually a necessary ingredient for your body to take a fat-soluble toxin, like vitamin A, and bind it to fatty acid esters. So you need choline, which is an emulsifier, to bind toxins to fatty acid esters so they can be stored in the liver. So in theory, liposomal is adding more phosphatidylcholine to the system. It's taking whatever you just put in and driving it deeper into the liver. So you're trusting and hope. That's why these things seem to work faster. What's that saying? You can have good quality or have it fast or be low price. You can't have all three. You could have two, but you can't. You may get two, but you can't have all three. Well, you start going, if it's fast, if you want it fast, does the quality go down? Something has to go down. So like, as I'm saying, does somebody have a systemic enzyme deficiency? Do they have a nattokinase deficiency? Do they have a bromelain deficiency? No, those things don't exist. Do the people who are not well and have chronic diseases, as an example, probably have vitamin A toxicity, copper toxicity, and a zinc deficiency? Yes. So what am I fixing? That's what we're working on. Could nattokinase help? Just like I talked about earlier with the hormones therapies. If people are on it and they feel better, go ahead and keep taking it. You want to take nattokinase for a while? Go. I don't see problems with it. But as soon as you stop taking it, the problem never went away, and it probably got worse the whole time. The word I use is it festered. So that's that. Let's see. Let me get down to the bottom here and go back up. So no more super chats, please. Oh, yeah. Let me see if I can. I'm going to go check the Wayback Machine. Where's the thing? Oh, did they wipe it? It's gone. Unless I'm searching this wrong. I'm pretty sure I know. I mean, we have the exact website right here. We have the exact. Wait, no, maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. Let me go check. Maybe I didn't get the exact website. Doesn't this go back? Yeah. Let's go do this. Let's go back to the main page. Oh, there it is. Maybe I did the wrong search. Okay, maybe they didn't. Who knows? Saved one time. Back in January. Okay, there it is. We can still find it. So when people thinking that let's just go over this. Liver injury can present with a variable latency. That means it can show up later at different times. Didn't we just start hearing about it? Seemed like there was kind of a wave of new things popping up. Variable latency following the first or second pokey with an acute hepatocellular liver cells or mixed/cholestatic toxic bile leakage pattern. The majority of these 9 high causality cases were older Caucasian women. Hospitalization and the use of corticosteroids were common, and several patients had abnormal liver tests at 6 months. It doesn't just go the liver injury. Here's the problem with what we're dealing with. Have you guys ever noticed how usually people just get sicker? If they don't do anything or they go the pharmaceutical route, they just get sicker. You have some people who do things that they think help them, and they help them for a while, but then they go right back to where they were, and then they're usually worse. These are things that are not actually fixing the problem. Because usually once you injure the liver, if you don't know what you're doing, it just spirals down because you injured the liver. Your detox system overall is slowed. You're spewing toxins back into the blood. The ones that are going back into your blood, you're not really getting rid of very well. So you're not really detoxing very well. So then any toxins that come in, especially if people start trying to get healthy and they put more toxins in, they get sicker. They're making themselves more toxic because they all, just like with those hormone things I was talking about, they're already unable to detox well. And you put more toxins in, you cause more liver injury, you cause more toxic stuff in there, and you damage the liver more, and you can't get rid of it. And you're going down this vicious cycle. This is why when we have people avoid the things that we do, and they're like, but I'm a foodie and I like the herbs and the spices and I like the tasty things and all. And I'm like, those are the marks of those, the strong smells and the flavors are the exact indicators that it's toxic for you. So if you want to get better, you can't even handle that right now. Like, we need to lower the toxicity hitting your liver every day, all day long, so your liver can heal, right? You keep picking a scab, it doesn't heal, does it? So if you can't even get rid of the toxins that are coming in every day, but yet you're still putting more in, how in the world would you ever get the stored toxins out? You understand? This is why we have to do what we do, because we have been poisoned. Think about it. Your great-grandparents, your grandparents, your parents, their toxicities, some of that was all handed down to you. Genetic damage from those toxicities was handed down to you. We have to do, and then the world is especially toxic right now, so we have to work even harder. It's just the way it is. We can complain, or we can put on our big boy pants and fix the problem. So, elderberry, so I see this question here with Blessed Beyond. Elderberry is, the way elderberry works is polyphenols, shutting down ALDH, depleting B1. It may shut down bile production. That's how we see the symptoms. No. If you're going to use anything polyphenol, just realize that it's a Band-Aid. You're using it short term to shut things down. That's not the end of the world. That's what ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine did, and they helped save some people's lives. That doesn't mean that their liver, after it was all over, is in better shape. It means they weathered a storm. That if you weather a storm, it doesn't, you realize like weathering a storm means there was probably a bunch of damage around you. Yes, you're still alive, but you weathered the storm. You made it through the storm alive. That doesn't mean everything around you in tip-top shape. The people who I see who start doing, let's say, the high-dose vitamin C and the elderberry and the polyphenols for getting sick, they tend to keep getting sick. That's why they need that crap around. I don't have to keep that crap around because I don't get sick anymore. So, and if I do, I wouldn't suppress it because I don't get that sick. Really suppressing colds and flus is for people who are in really dangerous situations. And they have to do it because they can't handle it. Do you know that septic shock is actually just too much bile in your blood? Way too much bile in your blood, so much that it could kill you. So what do? They shut it down. What were their studies on? High-dose vitamin C to treat septic shock. What does high-dose vitamin C do? It shuts down your bile, which could save your life. That doesn't mean it's long-term good for you. It creates fatty liver. So anyway, I got to get to the inner circle. I'm sorry if could you guys who are in here just, I hope I didn't miss out. Emily says, thank you for covering these topics. You're welcome, Emily. Let's see. So if there's any, I'll share the last URL. Okay, you hear? Sorry, let me get the archive here. Thank you, Joe. If I missed any super chats, somebody please let me know somehow. I don't know. Here is the archive page. There we go. So thank you all for coming. I'm off to the inner circle now. I'm late by an hour, but I knew this was going to be a big topic. I hope you all enjoyed it. We'll see you next week. Just don't think copper and vitamin A are good for you. That's the biggest thing you can get out of this today. If you are growing extra tissue, you're toxic and you're trying to make storage for it. That's what we're fixing. So have a great week. Bye now.